For today's lesson, we will be discussing Mark chapter 10, verses 42 through 45. It reads like this. Jesus called to them and said, "You know that those who are made leaders over the nations show their power to the people. Important leaders use their power over the people. It must not be that way with you. Whoever wants to be great among you, let him care for you. Whoever wants to be first among you must be the one who is owned and cares for all. For the Son of Man did not come to be cared for. He came to care for others. He came to give his life so that many could be bought by his blood and made free from sin." As we look at this passage, we see a recurring theme. The recurring theme is that living our lives as Christ is what we are called to do. This is done by following Christ's example and becoming a servant of God and of our fellow man. Christ showed that to be pleasing to God, we must be willing to be servants. And this was totally unlike the Gentile rulers of that time, who flaunted their power and authority. We as Christians must be willing to serve and give our lives away so that we may glorify God. Jesus gives us an example of how to do this in verses 43 and 44, which state, "It must not be that way with you. Whoever wants to be great among you, let him care for you. Whoever wants to be first among you must be the one who is owned and cares for all." Christ is telling us to become great and to please the Lord, that we must be willing to show the love of God through serving our fellow mankind. It is through the service to our fellow man that the love of God is shown to the world. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:20, if a person says, "I love God," but hates his brother, he is a liar. If a person does not love his brother whom he sees, how can he love God whom he has not seen? A Christian's call to service comes directly from Christ in that of the Great Commission. In Matthew 28, verses 19 and 20, it says, "Go and make followers of all nations. Baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Teach them to do all things I have told you, and I am with you always, even until the end of the world." See, because we are called to live as Christ, we are called to spread the word, and we are told that God will always be with us, and we will always have God's guidance. Verse 45 discusses how Christ made the ultimate sacrifice for us with his life. We are called to make sacrifices to spread this message and God's message throughout the world. Now, you may be wondering, how can I take this theme and apply it to my life? Well, there's several ways that you can do that, or you could even try to do that. You could talk with your youth group leaders and talk to them about organizing missions trips to underserved parts of your city and to help in any way possible that you can there. You can go help feed the homeless and let them know that God will supply them what they need. This way you are connected to those in the community, helping to serve and doing the work that is required in the Great Commission. You can make arrangements with local shelters and homeless organizations to volunteer. Also, you can look for ways to aid missionaries in foreign lands, either financially, raising funds, or sending needed materials. By doing these things, not only are you serving them, but you are taking time out of your own lives, making a sacrifice, living as Jesus did, and living your life to glorify God. And by helping on mission trips locally and abroad, the people you touch may have their hearts open up, and you will be able to show them the ultimate in caring for them by introducing them to Jesus Christ. In this passage in Mark, we're shown good and bad examples of how to live our lives to glorify God and how to honor the example that Jesus was for us. We are shown the example of the Gentile leaders who did not want to lead by example and did not want to serve those that they led. We are also given the example of Jesus' sacrifice for mankind. You see, sometimes we will be called to lay our lives on the line. We will be compelled by the love we've received to make sacrifices within our lives to help spread God's message and to serve those around us. If we can do these things, we will be living as God commands, as well as receive the blessings of the Lord throughout our lives. The important thing is that we will be people of service who serve others, not just benefiting from the service of and efforts of others. We must become people who are producers, not just consumers. We must come to understand that serving is not just the path to greatness in the kingdom, but also the pathway to true happiness and greatness. Jesus said, I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth. Slaves are no greater than their masters, nor is the messenger more important than the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. And I reiterate today that now that we know the message of God, which is the hope and care and love for his people, for our fellow man, go and do these things. Be blessed.